Hi guys, this is Pete from myjewelrybench.com. Today we're finally getting to the video of the ifun Castable Jewelry Resin, and I think you're going to like this product. It prints pretty well. If you do, give it a thumbs up, share, and enjoy the video. Thanks for watching. Well, let's get started working with the ifun Jewelry Castable Resin. This review is really going to cover what I found and how I used it to get to the final end product. Here you can see what I was working on. I printed these in gray resin, the Elegoo Mars gray resin, and you can see the detail in this print came out pretty good. And I decided that I wanted to try to cast these pieces first by printing them in the castable resin, and I wanted to see and compare what I would get as a result with the castable resin alongside the gray resin. So I like to print in gray resin because it prints out in good detail, and when you show a customer these products, they can see the detail really well. They're hard pieces, so the customer really can't do any damage to them when they handle them. Here you can see the pendant that I designed in one of my earlier videos. I'll put a link to that in the description below. Now let's take a look at the suggestions that ifun has for this particular product. They're calling for a layer thickness of 0.05 millimeters with a bottom layer exposure of 40 seconds and an alternative layer section for each additional layer of approximately 25 seconds. So when my package arrived, it was damaged and there were no instructions in the package. I couldn't find any instructions on the Amazon link or on their website. Barely could get to their website. So I decided to do some testing. Here you can see I used a layer exposure rate of approximately 20 seconds. And what I ended up with was this gooey mess. Boy, this was terrible, and I was really frustrated. So I figured after this gooey mess and no printing, I'd try to up the exposure rate, and I did, but it didn't get any better from there. So I decided that it was time to contact ifun and see what they said. I put a link, or I put an image of that in the video, you just saw it, and their exposure recommendations were 25 seconds as opposed to this mess that I ended up with 20 seconds. So the next group I did, you can see here, I've got a ring and my pendant, and there's a couple other pieces here. I tried to do an exposure rate of 25 seconds, and I did exactly what their recommendations were. And I'm not sure exactly why, but I printed these at a 45-degree angle, like I normally print my prototypes. And I used their recommended settings. And sadly, I got this half-built, oozing, gooey, alien-looking ring. It just, nothing was on this correctly, and although I was able to pull this out of the printer and get it into some water and alcohol and try to clean it, it just, for some reason, just did not come clean. I don't know, I probably just didn't clean it right. But this was the mess that I made at 25-second exposure time. And you can see in the video here, if we look closely, now looking at those prongs, you can see it just, there was no support on those at the 45-degree angle, and sadly it just turned into this big floppy, flexible resin mess. So I figured, okay, well, now it's time to step this up a little bit and try something different. So the next step was going to be trying to print these vertically, and I thought maybe printing them vertically at a higher exposure rate might help a little bit. So that was my next step. So let's examine these prints. Here I jumped the exposure time up to 32 seconds and I printed them vertically. And I still got a lot of errors on the bottom of the rings, but if you notice, if you look closely, the upper 2/3 or 3/4 of the rings actually came out pretty well, surprisingly. But the bottom part of the ring just did not print, and I was getting a little frustrated. So I'm thinking that obviously these settings are still wrong, but I'm getting a little bit better. The vertical printing helped tremendously. So if you're going to look to castable resin for your jewelry making, I'm going to suggest that you do it and print them vertically, because that way you're going to run into less hassles. Now here you can see that the bottom supports did not hold onto the ring shank, and I determined that maybe I just needed a little bit more support there. So I decided to try a couple more settings, and the next print actually took me a little over 9 hours to print. So let's take a look at those results. So here's the settings that I used to get to this point, and I was pretty happy with it. I did vertical printing. I did 5 bottom layers at 45 seconds each, with every additional level at approximately 35 seconds, and I did a layer height of 0.04 millimeters. Anti-aliasing on or off isn't going to matter too much. The lower you have it, if you do decide to use it, the less goo and gunk you're going to get on your prints. So here you can see that the pendant really didn't print well, but as we move into the rings, you're going to see that pretty much 2 of the rings out of the 3 printed perfectly, and I was very, very happy with the results. While the pendant didn't print, yeah, it was something I could live with. I can redo that and try again. The one ring that failed here, and we're going to get to that point here, I'm going to explain to you why it failed. So looking at the still frame, we can see that one of the supports did not contact the ring. Anywhere else the support contacted the ring and the supports were relatively close, you can see the ring shank actually printed perfect. However, this one location, it just didn't print. And I'm chalking this up to the result of not having enough lower supports on the bottom of the piece while it's being printed. The more support layer, or the more support product that I had on the bottom of each ring, the better it printed. So my guess is because the ifun resin and most castable resin is very flexible, waxy, and soft, that you want as much support as you can get at the beginning of the print, or in this case the bottom of the ring, so that you can have a really good shank and not run into these little issues. So here you can tell there's a little indent there where it just didn't print, and I'm kind of chalking that up to the fact that I just didn't have enough support beams on this particular location. You'll notice in the other rings though, I did. So moving on to one of the other rings, let's take a look. You can see here I had, what, 8, 9, 10 supports there, and they were pretty much equal distance apart, and they supported the bottom part of this ring relatively well. There were no errors in the print. There's a little residual residue from the resin on this ring, and I still have to cure it. But other than that, the bottom of the shank printed perfectly, and I think it was due mostly to the number of support beams that I had attached to the lower part of the ring shank. And the 2 rings that printed well, here can you see the other one here, it's because I just had enough supporting material under the shank, and it was enough to hold that flexible resin in place during the print. So my theory here is any of the flexible resins, add as much support to the bottom piece, print vertically, and you should end up with really good results. The ifun resin is working well. I set a piece out to be cast, so we're going to check that out in about a week or so after I get back and take a look at what it looks like after casting. So here we're just taking a quick look at how I would recommend doing the supports here. I'm going to grab the first piece, add the platforms. I'm going to use the default settings, and then I'm going to add, you'll see here, I'm going to add as many as I can. And the really cool thing about this is if you rotate it around, you can see the underside without any impediments. So just add as many as you can, equal distance apart. You don't want them too separated. In this way you'll get a lot of good support as it's being printed. The other ring here you can see I'm going to add the support there, and we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to take a look at the bottom here and just add as many supports as possible. It's not going to hurt your castable piece. You know, you're going to clean this up anyway after it's cast. Whether it's silver or gold, you have to polish it up, clean it, sand it, get all those little burrs out of there anyway. So don't worry about the fact that there might be a lot of support material there. Is it a waste of resin? Well, it's not a waste of resin as long as you're getting a good piece. So all in all, I would say I'm about 95% satisfied with the resin so far. I'm going to let you know after a few casted pieces come back, and I hope you like this. If you want to see a written review of this, I've got it on my website at myjewelrybunch.com. There's a link to the article below, and it gives you the written settings for the She2 box slicer and what I found and what I think of it. Okay, so let's close this out by talking about the specific She2 box settings for the slicer. What you're going to want to do is have 5 bottom layers at approximately 45 seconds of exposure each. Every additional layer should be at 0.04 or 0.05 millimeters, and the layer exposure level should be at 35 seconds each. That'll give you the best results, and don't forget to print these vertically and not at an angle like you might typically print for other models using other resins. Good luck, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up and share it if you can, because the more shares, thumbs up, and likes I get, the better my channel does. And I'll be reviewing another resin type in about 2 weeks or so, so be on the lookout for that. Thanks, guys. Thanks, guys, for taking the time to watch some of my videos. I really appreciate it. If you like these videos and you find them helpful, please give me a thumbs up. And if you want to see new stuff that I put out, usually on a weekly basis, hit the subscribe button and you can get notified by clicking on that little bell. I really appreciate any sharing that you can do, and the thumbs up that I get if you like these videos kind of helps with my channel to grow. You'll see that in the descriptions and on my website I do put affiliate links to products that I show and use in these videos. Those affiliate links give me a little small commission. Doesn't cost you anything if you buy them, and when you buy within the first 24 hours of clicking on those links, I get a tiny little commission that helps keep this channel going. Any little bit helps to keep this up and running. Again, thanks for taking the time to watch it. If you liked it, hit that thumbs up and share on social media. Take care, guys. Happy watchmaking and jewelry making.